Welcome to our session on how to create a killer event proposal. I'm Dominique R. Jenkins. I'm the Senior Manager of Author Events at Macmillan Publishers.
And my name is Kit Little. I'm the Director of Marketing for the Towne Book Center and Wine Bar in Collegeville, Pennsylvania. I've been with them for over 12 years now.
And we're very excited to talk to you about creating a really good event proposal. And I'd like to thank the conference sponsors for making this programming possible. And we would like to remind you that we're following the New Voices, New Rooms Conference Code of Conduct, which states that we are all considered competitors and there can be no discussion on terms or boycotts. Please read the policies on the New Voices, New Rooms website. Kit, did I miss anything?
You did not.
Excellent. I just want to say about this education session, we understand that navigating the event grids and submitting an event proposal can be intimidating, and we're here to offer some helpful tips. I just want to say that I cannot speak for all publishers. I'm speaking for Macmillan. If you have questions about event proposals for other houses, please reach out to your author events contact for that house. So let's get to the major point of our panel, which is event proposals. One of the best ways to submit your proposal is via Edelweiss. And that's the best way to see which Macmillan author or which authors are on tour. And then you have the opportunity to submit your proposal this way. If you don't have an account, please open one with support@abovethetreeline.com. And also reach out to us or to the author events team at the publishing house to be sure that you're on their contact list. If you're not sure, you can always email me and we'll put my email address in the chat and you can just drop a note and say, hey, here's my email address. Am I on your grids? And we will make sure to put you on there if not, or you can reach out to one of my colleagues.
One quick way to meet a lot of the different reps from the publicists from the publishing houses is if you are in the neighbor region and you can join us for publisher speed dating, you'll be able to meet 40-ish publicists in one day, which is incredible. I enjoy seeing Dominique there every single year. And then another thing I wanted to mention is Edelweiss isn't the only way to submit. We do have the option. There are several publishers who will send you a spreadsheet where you can just fill in a spreadsheet and return that. Or you may be doing a single pitch where there's one particular author that you want for a special event, or just because you're in love with that particular author's work and you want them. So you could do this as something that is a solo single pitch in an email.
You're going to hear me repeat this a lot. It is absolutely fine to email me or email directly any author that you would like to host. So please don't be afraid to send an email saying, hey, is this author available? And if yes, here's my proposal. Absolutely do that because we always are looking forward to connecting you with our publicity teams. So what are we looking for in a proposal? I hope you all have your pens and pencils and notebooks ready. The first thing we want to say is we understand that the events landscapes has changed and will continue to change in these new times. What worked for in-person events may not work for virtual events, and we encourage you to think outside of the box when you're making your plans because we understand that it's not the same. So keeping that in mind, here are some tips we think will be helpful when you submit your proposal. The first thing is everybody's always looking for the big authors. If you're interested in a big name author, feel free to email me directly with your proposal. And don't hesitate to contact me with a proposal, as we said, outside of the grids. Be enthusiastic. Imagine I think there are over 70 booksellers here. The publicity teams are looking at requests from every bookseller here. We want to make sure that you stand out. So if there's an author that you're really enthusiastic about, put that information in your proposal. So this way the publishers know, wow, this store is really excited to host my author. That's really important to come across.
Make sure that you're honest about what you can offer, but also don't be afraid to brag about your successes. It's also important, I think, to include if you have a personal connection. If this is your favorite author on the planet, they want to know that. If you sat with your family, an example for me is John Dornbos, who was on America's Got Talent, and was a football player. And of course, so my husband liked him for football. My daughter liked him for America's Got Talent. And I knew so much about his story from the two of them that when I found out he had a book coming out, I went to Publisher Speed Dating completely prepared to pitch for that particular person and telling them I knew about this author. I knew what I liked. This is why we would be so excited. This is where our personal connection to this particular event came from. So we were sure to be interested in making sure we put together an incredible event for him. I also want to recommend that you never ever be afraid to request any author, whether you're a small store or not, and to request repeatedly. It has been proven through studies that it takes 3 times to see a brand before you recognize a brand. It takes 7 times to see a brand before you can recall the brand. So when I'm pitching for somebody, because, you know, I shoot for the stars, Stephen King, and if I'm putting down every time I see that he's got a book coming out, even if he's not coming past Maine or south of New England, I'll still put in there that I would love to have the opportunity to host him sometime. Because someday they're going to get sick and tired or really excited about the fact that I'm still interested in hosting that particular author. This has worked for me. Another thing is that you shouldn't be afraid to talk about what makes your store unique.
Yes.
It is really important if there's something special about your store. Are you the official store for your local LGBTQIAA chapter, like we are? Are you the official store for your local chapter of SCBWI, or do you represent them at an event, which we have done? Is there some connection in your community to a specific organization? Do you have your poetry readings led by the local poet laureate? Or do you just have a high school teacher who's super excited about poetry and wants to hold poetry slams or events at your store? These are small little things where people tend to sometimes forget that that's a significant pitch for an event. What makes you unique? What do you have that's special, or what do you want to create that is special? It doesn't have to be something that's established. So if you're honest and you say, you know, I would really like to do this particular thing, I would love for you to partner with me on it and see if we can make this happen. That's another thing that I often get great responses from publishers for.
One thing I do want to add, small stores, big stores, one thing that you can absolutely brag about is your social media promotion outreach. That's one of the things that we absolutely look for. If you have a large social media outreach, let us know what your platforms are. If you have a large following on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, let us know that information and let us know your promotional partnerships, because this is information that we absolutely want to make sure we know what we send to our publicity teams, because that's one of the biggest ways that we use to promote the events. And so brag about yourselves.
Don't forget that you don't just go after the A-listers. Don't forget those wonderful debut authors. You read an arc of a debut author and you fall in love with it. That's a personal connection to a book. That is worth making a pitch for. They are authors that are usually willing to really help with their own social media outreach too, if they're having an event with you. The debut authors, the indie authors, they're all our future A-listers, so we need to show them love as well. Be creative with your event proposals. When I talked about having ideas, one of the things that's working extremely well for me right now is this year, I had an idea because we're all going virtual. And for us, virtual is relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
But I am working on 42 events right now for the months of October, November, and December. Well, the end of August through, or I'm sorry, September, October, November, and December. So I came up with an idea that I wanted to do a panel of authors, one YA, one middle grade, that were nothing but sequels. So we would be using the lead title, which is in the series, or the duology, that would be the one that we would be promoting, but we would also make sure that the first book of every series was also available for everyone. Another one that I did was I wanted very genre specific. I've done that a lot of times over the past, but I also decided I wanted to do separate middle grade, separate adult, and I'm also working on separate YA, and I'm also working on adult to do specific panels that are diverse and inclusive, and trying to make sure that we have a wide range of people rather than a specific theme in that particular situation.
And to Kit's point, because the landscape has changed, creativity is absolutely encouraged. It's not discouraged. An idea might not be, you might think it's too crazy. There is no such thing as too crazy an idea. Put it out there. If it's not possible, we'll say it's not possible. But Absolutely, let us know. The more creative you can be, the more engaged, the more you can show that you're absolutely willing to do what it takes to host a great event. That's what we're looking for. Be very specific with your proposal, like be in detail, like let the publishers know what specifically you can and can't do. Kit, did you want to talk about press kits?
I do.
Okay.
Take the time to update or make your press kits. And this is a living document. It's not something that you make and set aside and just use every time you need one. Mary Beth Pelly did amazing sessions during this event. They'll be available on video later with her team and also for the team for our bookseller certification for event planning. They're incredible. She also has the press kit webinars, which are available on the NABA website and YouTube channel. And it is so worthwhile to have this press kit and have it there that you can just quick attach it to an email when you're doing a single event proposal. If you have the good grace to be able to go to New York and meet with publishers, which I highly recommend, make a day of it, set up appointments, meet 5 people, go home. We would get up early in the morning, drive to the bus, take the bus or the train in, take a cab to everywhere we had to go, get back on the train and go back home. I know that it's not necessarily cost effective for everybody, but if you can do it, it's incredible. And have your press kit there to hand out to everybody who's in the room, because you can sometimes get in front of 20 people from one publishing house from all the little sub companies at the same time.
We love meeting with bookstores, and in the virtual world now, we're happy to set up virtual meetings with everyone and our publicity team. So to echo Kit's point, we highly encourage meetings. The other big point is know your audience demographic. Who are you reaching out to? What authors are going to reach what demographic? Know your expected audience. This might be a little hard in these times, but you have a general idea of what authors you think, what genres will fit your audience. So be really clear about what your expected audience is. One of the biggest things is ticket sales, sales for books in general. How will you handle sales? Do you have the ability to bundle events? Can you, what are you doing? Ticketed bundles? Are you doing donation with option of no book? Are you doing donation with book? Be very, very clear about how you can handle book sales. Are you handling sales after the event? So that's really great information for us to know. Comp authors you've hosted with sales and attendance numbers. If you're looking for Sarah Blake, for example, show an example of a comp author whose event you've hosted and how successful it was. That's really important. Or if the author is a staff pick, let us know that. We really want to know what authors you're interested in and what authors you've hosted before that are in similar genres. Are you willing to partner with other indies for events? In these times, there are all virtual events, and if you're willing to partner with other indies for a big author, a small author, that's really important to know. And it's great for each store because it creates sales for each store for different authors, and that's something that we like to see, like the partnerships. Pre-order campaigns. Can you handle pre-order campaigns? And this is important. Remember to be transparent with what you can offer as far as your pre-order campaigns. Would you like to offer swag as far as swag with a book? Would you like to do a white box? Like whatever your pre-order campaign looks like, please be very transparent and clear with what you can offer. Kit, were you going to speak about?
There's a question that I wanted to address in the chat before we move on. Amber Brown was asking about how to appeal to the entire country.
Oh,
I find that when you're super excited about it, other people get super excited about it.
exactly.
And if you can express your excitement in a way that is understandable, it's going to help. And I think people are going to respond. Kathy Ellen Davis did a social media session for us yesterday, which will also be on video, where she shows a whole bunch of different ways that you can do this to appeal to different people on different platforms with different kinds of messages. And it's important to learn those things and experiment with those things until you find what works best for you, because it will change as time goes on. Most of this stuff is fluid. Please know that. And it really is going to depend on the relationships you build, which things work best in which places. The next topic I wanted to talk about when you're doing a pitch is speak about your specialties.
Yes.
What is it that you are really good at? Are you really good at making sure that every author that walks through your doors feels like they are the king of the store, the star of the show? The feedback that they will get from their authors about how well they were treated is going to matter. But speak about what is it that you're good about. Do you have connections with schools? If you do, tell them. Do you have a specific school visit program? Tell them what it is. Mine is developed over 6 years and is a little different than a lot of other people's and works really well. So I always mention the key points about my school tours. And it has all translated to virtual because my plans for in-person are the same as they are for virtual.
Mm-hmm.
Can you provide sales for offsite events? One of the ways that we pick up some events and have gotten on the radars for certain publishers is if we see on a grid tied into someone's speaking schedule, I'll toss a note in there and say, if this author's coming to the Philly area and is in need of bookseller representation at their event, we'd be happy to help because we are willing to go offsite. We will put ourselves out there in that way, or we will order the books for that offsite event and have them shipped, drop shipped, or we will drop them off. And we don't necessarily have to be there to staff the event if it's all pre-orders. Do you have community partnerships? Can you partner? This is especially important for small stores because we started very small. If you can partner with a library that gives you a bigger venue for free, if you can partner with your local high school, we had a great partnership going on a long time with one of our local high schools for a Holocaust survivor. She wrote 4 Perfect Pebbles, and we would do an event there every year so that we could seat a lot of people. Do you have community partnerships with an organization? I mentioned before, you know, different chapters from different things. Women's National Book Association is another one that we're affiliated with. Are there other businesses? Do you have, a pharmaceutical company in your area that might want to have something at their event where you could bring somebody in there, or a hospital? I'm trying to think of all the different partnerships that I have that I've built up slowly over the course of my time with the store that we now have in place. A local movie theater, anything that you have that opens up a different venue, or even more importantly, opens up a different avenue of marketing your event that could increase your viewership, especially with virtual. Because even if none of you have a space to host 300 people, you can virtually host 300 people and use these partnerships as a way to get the word out there and get registration signups and pre-orders.
And also, depending on the platform, in addition to pre-orders, you can use the platform to say, here's a link, you can buy the book during the event. And that's also something that's very important. To Kit's point about, speak about your specialties, because these are different times, and I keep stressing that because we know we're in virtual. Offsite events can also mean you ordering the books for the author, having them sent to the author to sign books, and then working to make sure that the books go to the offsite venue. So that's also a service or something that you could let us know is possible for you to do. Because most events are virtual now, we definitely want to touch on virtual event security. We take our virtual event security very seriously. We take our authors' security very seriously. So when you're pitching for authors in these times, please, please let us know how you are providing security for on your platforms. Include your virtual event platform in your proposal. Be honest about your security practices, and we can absolutely help with any questions you might have about event security best practices. We also you'll hear from our publicity teams. They'll ask you how you're handling security. They'll give you a packet that includes different questions for how you're handling event security. If you have any questions, please let us know, and we're happy to walk you through how you can handle scammers or spammers or anybody that's being inappropriate to authors. Just because, again, we want to make sure that authors are protected and the event goers are protected too.
Also, that's going back to the being honest part of everything, and also bragging about yourself. If you have a great system in place, let them know that you have this great system in place. When we want to talk also about, excuse me.
It's okay. I want to go back to a question from Jill. Jill says, what kind of sales numbers are good for a virtual event these days? Jill, we're seeing event numbers fluctuate. What we're seeing right now is a 10% sell-through rate for events. And so we're trying to leverage that to see if we can expand, but 10% sell-through is what we're seeing right now. And then Angela Shore says, what kinds of sales numbers are good or appealing in general? If you can do better than 10%, that would be, yeah, Melissa's echoing me. If you can do it better than 10%, for example, with ticketed sales, that's what we're looking for. Are we doing any good in-person events right now? Jill, we're not doing any in-person events, unfortunately. We're looking forward to the day when we will. Hopefully that will be next year, but as of right now, all of our events are virtual.
I think I mentioned earlier that virtual events were kind of new for us. We did not do very well with them in the past. We did well with some, but it wasn't one of the things that we did often. So when everything began back in April, I started doing pitches where I would explain. Storytown especially is important for us. We call our storytime event Storytown. And I made it very clear in all of my pitches. And since everything went virtual, you could pretty much pitch for any author anywhere in the country. So I made sure to say, whereas we have not done this virtually in the past, we are looking to explore this possibility. We'd love to partner with you. And we're hoping that you would join us in starting our Storytown virtual events. And then I would say very clearly, we are hoping to have downloadable coloring pages or activity pages or some kind of activity that can be done with the author, have the author read their book and maybe one of their backlist. I would talk about all the different things that I would want to do to make a good half-hour virtual situation. I learned very quickly that children's books, they don't like to leave the videos up if you're archiving videos. So make sure you know about that and that you're very conscientious about following the guidelines of the publisher when it comes to recording, archiving, and posting and keeping available to the public. But we do want to talk about moving forward and thinking about in-person events because they're going to come back. Don't believe they're going to come back.
either in-person fully or in-person virtual hybrid. We are looking forward to some form of in-person events.
We know that some people are doing them though already. We have safe distancing signings. I've seen signings on the sidewalk in front of some of our stores, which I thought was brilliant. I watched a story time / signing in the front window of a store where everybody was outside safely distanced on the sidewalk watching the author read their book. There are ways, and I know that in-persons are happening, but we want to make sure that you have the steps in place for when you're going to return.
Right. So all of the points that we said are translatable to in-person events. And one of the biggest points that we want to add to is know who your bookstore competitors are. For example, if you're one store and there's another store that's 3 blocks away, will your event or will that store's event take away from sales from, or will you take away from sales from each other, or do you have a good partnership? We want to make sure that you know that we know that all the indie stores are important. All of you are important to us. We want to make sure that we spread the wealth for author events for all of your stores. So if you can let us know which stores are in your area so we're not taking away from another store, that's really important to know. And if you're willing to partner with your fellow indies, let us know.
Dominique, we have a question. Yeah? Is there a particular virtual platform that Macmillan prefers people use for the best security?
We prefer, most people we know are using Zoom. So we know that platform is very secure. But honestly, let us know the platform that you're using and we will talk you through steps to make sure that the event is secure. But Zoom is very secure as far as we see.
And if someone's willing to do in person, is it still it's an absolute no from Macmillan for the time being, correct?
We would have to, that's a case by case basis. We would have to speak to the publicity team. We're not, so as of not right now, everything is virtual, but we can always take the ask and go to the author's publicist.
And Erin, I saw that you asked how important it is to be able to bundle ticket events. What I'm finding is it depends on the event.
It also depends on the author.
Where I'm being asked that some it's required, some I'm being asked to, and others it's very open.
Yes, and we prefer Zoom webinar, not Zoom meetings, because Zoom webinar is a lot more secure. If you can use Crowdcast, we love using Crowdcast. So if you can host your event on Crowdcast, that would be great.
If you're not sure, you can, and I've done this, we now have a system in place. It's very secure and it's a little complicated. It's different than anybody else that I know of, but I always put in my pitches, we're open to other things if necessary. Like if you've got a specific platform or you want us to use your platform or anything like that, we are willing to adapt to that. Just checking those questions now.
I know we're checking them. We want to make sure that we get to everyone's questions.
I wanted to say, oh, go ahead.
If you are using Zoom, one of the biggest security platforms, and thank you, Amber, for putting that up there, the Zoom links that you're sending are unique. If you can not make them public, that would add a level to security, which would be great. So I know a lot of stores once the person signs up for the event, they're receiving the link via email. That's honestly one of the better ways to send out the link for an event.
As far as returning to in-store events, things that I will include in a pitch that does matter a lot of times, especially if you're pitching for somebody where you could have a large meet and greet audience, is keeping in mind what your space is in your store. If it's a sit down, mention that. Mention if you have enough parking. If you're pitching for the Jack and Annie Magic Tree House tour, let them know that you can park a bus somewhere within however many blocks of your store or miles. Know your floor plan. If you've got something special in your floor plan that allows for a specific type of flow, or making sure that it maximizes sales, or it makes it secure for people to exit quickly, if you've got an author who's got a long line and you want to make sure people keep moving, those are all things that I will also include depending on the event that I'm pitching for. But there's more to do after the proposal.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to ask for help after you're submitted the proposal. If you want to follow up once you get your author, if you need help publicizing the event, let the publicist know. If you need help with social media promotion by the author or by the publisher, if you need promotional items like posters, signs, flyers, swag items, let us know. Don't be afraid to ask us, and be transparent with what you need, because we won't know unless you tell us. And that you can put that in your proposal when we're pitching for an author. These are things that we can do, but we would like your help with. And reach out to your fellow bookstores for advice, because your fellow booksellers are a great resource to what you can do and what you can't do, or what they think is possible, what they've done, because they've got the experience, especially for new-ish stores.
Yes. Also follow up with the reps on events you're passionate about. If you do your pitch on a grid, be it Edelweiss or a spreadsheet, if you do a pitch and you find out the publicist for a particular author that you want, make sure you include your rep if you have a rep. Your reps can be your biggest allies. So they should be kept in the loop as well, and hopefully they'll back you up. Mine usually do. So get the backup and the support from anyone else that you might know in the publishing house. I've copied Dominique on things that I've sent to other publicists within Macmillan, because I want to make sure that she knows what we're doing.
All the things. I get all the things that Kit sends.
Yeah. Dominique's very involved with Macmillan. It's wonderful. It's a joy to work with.
Thank you. One of the other things is, please feel free to email me, and I said this earlier, with your top 3 author requests. So for example, if you filled out the grids, but you're like, I want to make sure that my proposal gets seen, email me. I encourage that every season, and I absolutely make sure that your proposal gets to the publisher. If you have questions about what to put in your proposal, feel free to reach out to me because I'm happy to work with you. If you just want me to look it over, I'm happy to do that too. Because we want to make sure that every store has the opportunity to pitch for their authors. I think that was everything. Did we miss anything, Kim?
Oh, if it's a really big event or something that's incredibly special to you, don't leave it to the grids. You can put it on the grid, but make sure you send a specific follow-up for that particular event, because you can put a whole lot more detail into a complete pitch than you're doing in that little box on a grid.
I'm going to say it again. Please feel free to email me separately.
So now, are there any more questions? I'm trying to catch them along the way. So if we missed anything, feel free to repost.
Jill, my job title is Senior Manager of Author Events.
Does Macmillan handle author events for all imprints under their umbrella?
Yes.
Most publishers handle things that way. Cannot speak to most publishers.
I can speak for Macmillan, and the answer is yes, we handle author events for all wholly owned and distributed clients, wholly owned publishers and distributed clients. Anybody that falls under the Macmillan umbrella, we handle. So if you have a St. Martin's Press author, it's Macmillan.
Jason, that's a great question. What's a good length for a pitch submitted via the grids? Some of my pitches are super short, to the point, succinct, don't need to put anything else. Some of them are long, and if they're long, it's usually because it's something that I should be sending a follow-up with as well.
I've seen pitches that are 3 lines, but 3 really powerful lines. I've seen pitches that are 3 bullet pointed paragraphs. So it honestly depends on what you'd like to say and how important the author is to you. But you can say a lot with a little bit of words. Does that make sense?
I have flat out said, I am the store to host this event.
I've seen those.
Probably sent them to you.
You have.
Be confident. No, I mean, if you know yourself, you know your store, you know what you can do. Be confident about it. They will respond.
Do we get, this is from Angela, do we get confirmation that our submission was received via the Edelweiss grids? I'm not sure that Edelweiss gives you confirmation, but you can always email me and say, Dominique, did you get it? And I will look in our grids and say, yes.
Edelweiss will confirm that you've submitted a grid. The publishers, it's different publishers. Some actually will send you a thank you and a decline if you're not getting the event. Some will just send a, we got it, and then you may not hear anything. And there are far too many that do not acknowledge the receipt of a pitch, which is another reason that I say follow up with an email if it's really important.
Kat Leach has a question. We hosted a ticketed bundle virtual event this summer that spooked us as far as low ticket sales versus the attendance numbers we feel we would have seen on the same event with a free ticket. Can you help us understand what your priorities as a publishers are? We live in fear of big name authors garnering too small an audience, even if we make the sales. So the real issue is attendance numbers versus sales. Where do you as a publisher land on this? Well, in normal times, we understand that you can have low attendance numbers, but higher sales. And with virtual events, we understand that it's a little bit different because people are still learning their way as far as ticketed and bundled events. So we are, and I feel like if Melissa wants to jump in here, I think she can. We want to make sure that you, the store, and the author are happy. There's Melissa.
Hi. I would just say, this is where I want to say that being honest and sharing your expectations goes a really long way with the publicist, and you can work together as a team to get what you both want out of the event. So if you're 2 weeks out and you've only sold 10 tickets and it's not looking good, just tell the publicist, and maybe the answer is, let's put up a free option because we want as many eyeballs on this event as we can. Or maybe the answer is, you know what, let's just keep it ticketed. We've seen this before with this author. They'll sell tickets in the last, couple days leading up. Don't worry about it. If it's 25, it's okay. Like, I think it's just all about transparency and being honest with the publicist and considering yourselves a team, even more in these times than before. and we're telling our publicists the same thing. So we really hope that you guys work together on that. I don't think there's one answer to that. I think each author is different and each campaign is different, but we just think like reaching out and being honest is the way to go.
I think that's perfect, because I've done exactly that. I've had to call somebody and say, you know, the numbers are low for this. I've had numbers look high and then we don't have the attendance that we thought we were going to have.
Mm-hmm.
I had an A-lister who was on my top 5 of people that I really wanted to host. And when they showed up, we had 100 people less than I thought we were going to have. I was devastated. I was so sad about the situation. And then I got an email the next day from the publisher saying that the author had said it's the best event he's done in years, because he felt like he was wanted and appreciated, and everybody was so wonderful, including the attendees. He didn't even care that it was the number that it was.
I will say also, a lot of publicists are feeling a little discouraged when there's 200 attendees and then we hear 1 book sold.
Right.
So because we're doing all of this for book sales, so sometimes 50 attendees and 50 book sales instead of 200 attendees and 1 book sold is a much better option. It really just depends on the author and what the goals are, but usually book sales are better.
Lisa's asking, is a phone call follow-up to a pitch acceptable or just email? Lisa, I will call.
You can do both. I miss talking to people. Please feel free to call me.
Don't call me. Please don't call me. Everyone's different.
But yes, email me, and then you can follow up with a phone call that just says, Dominique, hi. I just want to make sure that you got my email, and just say hello, introduce yourself again. I miss being at the conference. I know we're not in person, but I miss physically being there because, you know.
Oh, yes.
But it would absolutely be great just to hear everybody's voices, and yeah, that's totally fine to call, to follow up.
Especially if you've already had an email communication.
Exactly.
Of any kind.
Dominique loves the phone, so she could be on it.
I'm going to add my email address in the chat just in case people do not have it.
I assume if you're calling, it's a spam call, so.
Yeah, but definitely email first and then follow up with a phone call, because I'm like Melissa, I look at my phone and if your name doesn't show up, I'm like, nope, not answering.
I would also say one of the things about this is if you happen to know, like when you get to know like a certain author that you want, and if they have a publicist and you do any event at all with that publicist, this took time for me, but eventually I now know certain publicists where I can go, hey, you know, remember we worked on such and such with so-and-so? I'd love to work with you on this other author because we've had a good experience in the past, draw on it. I'm all about building up the events that we've already done and growing the relationships rather than, oh, good, we did this, now you're done, I'm moving on to this thing. It's a fluid relationship, it continues, and it's helpful to have those details. Keep records of your events because it's helpful to be able to go back to those, go back to those events and see what you've done and be able to use that in the future instead of going, what did I do that day on sales or something like that. It's also helpful for your press kit. And super helpful.
To Kit's point, one thing we do look for events is sales results. So we will absolutely reach out to you for sales results or for event results. So if you want to say for an author, for example, I'm pitching for blah, blah, blah author, we've had a comp author and we've had X amount of sales for this author. So to Melissa's point about being transparent, let us know what you think your sales can be, because that's important for the publicity teams to say, oh, wait, this store had sales of this amount for another author. Okay, we'd like to partner with this author. So event results are really, really important when you're proposing. And I feel like there was another question. Oh, there is no such thing as a bad event. All author events are amazing no matter what. So pitch, even if you think like past events have been horrible, there's no such thing as a bad event. You took the time to invite our authors to your stores or to your virtual platform. We appreciate everything that you are doing for our authors. You're putting eyes on our authors, whether they're A-list authors, debut authors. The discoverability for your buyers is amazing. So thank you for that. We want to make sure that you know that no event is a bad event.
Mary Beth, you asked about virtual events being the trend. Are international authors going to be more available? I can resoundingly answer that with a yes. I have 5 international events going on, including one right now that we're doing a pre-order campaign that we are willing to ship overseas. The recipient has to pay the shipping fees because we can't afford to do a lot of that. But we have agreed to ship overseas, and we had to set up something special because we're indie commerce. And it was part of the response. When I got the response to my pitch, one of the things they asked right away is, are you able to do a pre-order campaign? Are you able to ship overseas? And it turns out indie commerce only allowed us the options of US and Canada. So we had to pick an email, and we used the email for people to send the orders to, so that we could set up all of our international shipping that way.
Sam, Melissa answered your question about sales being the deciding factor over the store's ability to reach their community. And then a follow up to the shipping overseas, Nicole asks everyone who they use to ship overseas.
That's a good question. I will have to find out.
Okay.
I will give you my email so you can send me that question.
I will say, as far as proposals, we just closed our Winter 21 event grids. So if there was an author that you were interested in, email me your top 3 author requests, and I will make sure to connect you with the publicity person. Kid already did.
There's one on there that I know the tour is closed, and I'm going for it anyway.
Can I go back to event results really quickly, because I think for Macmillan, these are so important for future planning. And Meg Collins on our team reaches out to ask for sales. It's so helpful. And right now we're really considering like event sales to be pretty much like sales or like 4 weeks around the event, I would say, like, or maybe life to date if it's a recent pub. So don't be intimidated about what we're asking. Everyone's sales are small. So like if your sales look small, it's, it's just so that we can have more information as we're talking to publicists about how the tour went. And I also wanted to go back to the question about Sam's question about deciding factor sales or the reach to the community. And I think that, like I said, it's depending on the publicist and author's expectations. But I think that there are some key ways that you can increase that sell through. Like if you are reaching a large audience but not seeing sales translate, there are some things that we can do to help with that, like offering signed books, being creative about ticketing, asking the publicist if there's a swag item or an extra that you can include. So that's where I encourage you to reach out to the publicist or us. If you ever want to brainstorm about how to increase your sales, we can always chat individually.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off my computer.
I do that. I will
Macmillan
ask.
Author Events is a team, so
When I get an event, I will ask for posters or flyers or postcards or give like the little tattoos for the kids. They love them. Stickers. They love them. Bookmarks. I will ask for swag that will help get the word out there and help promote the event. I also recommend that a lot of people will ask now, if you have a press list, have your press list that you can share with the publicists, and the publicists will often reach out to your contacts on your press lists and do all of that for you.
Absolutely.
They're there to support us, not just to give us the authors. And that's how you'll build a working relationship with them too, which will help with future pitches.
Absolutely. And again, don't be afraid to say what we can do, or ask what you would like us to do for you as far as publicity and promotion. So that's really important information for us to know.
All right, it looks like we have answered all the questions. We really appreciate you coming.
We hope this was helpful for everyone, and we put our emails in the chat. So if you have any questions outside of this seminar, please reach out to me, reach out to Melissa and Meg, reach out to Kit. We really love working with everyone, and thank you all so much for coming.
This was fantastic. Thank you, you two. And we have another great evening planned, Crimes and Cocktails. America Was Never America for Me. And Late Night with Rachel Bloom and Ben Philippe. So we'll see you all there. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye-bye.